Hey there, thank you for tuning in to another episode of ALP Talks. ALP NG & Co. is a firm that's part of a broader group that's located at Lagos and Abuja, from where we offer both legal and professional services through our sister arm, ALP PSL. True to our name and across the continent, we have our sister firm, ALP East Africa, which offers legal services across 4 jurisdictions in the region, namely Kenya, Uganda, South Sudan, and Tanzania. Through our collaborative efforts across the continent, we prefer trade advisory and training services for our clients under ALP Trade. Thank you for tuning in, and we hope you enjoy the conversation. My name is Adekola Thompson, and I am an associate at ALP NG & Co. And our guru will introduce herself.
Good day, everyone. My name is Olajumoke Koka. I am also an associate at ALP NG & Co. And I'm very happy to be here doing this.
Data is already information that exists somewhere. Now, within context of our world, it's often in a digital format, right? Which leads us to intellectual property, because so you have these large models of artificial intelligence, which are either trained on languages or images, still images, or visual images, or motion, audio-visual text. Some are just audio, and some are just a combination of all. And so this has created a situation where different forms of content are being produced seemingly as new, but not by a human being. Yeah. So, I mean, I remember people losing their minds, especially the content creators, that, AI has come to steal our jobs. There have been people whose services have been rendered redundant.
Yes.
Because of artificial intelligence. But now there's some issues, because now you have an instance where, some human effort has gone into the creation of this artificial intelligence work, or work produced by artificial intelligence. And you have other instances where someone says, oh, no, well, I mean, yes, you tweaked, but my work was still part of that thing. And I see some similarities, striking resemblance to my work, my pre-existing work. So as our in-house guru, please enlighten us on this area.
Okay. So as some background context, so intellectual property law, IP, applies typically, so there's patents, there's trademark, there's design. I think for this conversation, the most relevant would be copyrights.
Okay. So what's copyright?
So copyright is, it's an exclusive right over, I'm going to use the word author, but it's not author than author of a book. Author just means the person who made the work for protection.
Okay.
So it is the exclusive rights over the author's work. And copyright typically applies to literary works, film, audio, broadcasts, and sound recordings. And so this is copyrighted by ALP. And musical scoring, so like composing. So it is the exclusive right. So if you own copyrights, you have the exclusive rights on how that work is controlled, how it's consumed by the public, who can offer it to the public, how it can be remade. So making it, if it's a book, how it can be turned into a movie, a TV show,
right,
and so on and so forth. And how money is made from it, essentially. So how it can be shared. The question now comes in when people now, so the issue typically arises when You start seeing your work in places that you didn't authorize it. You see a movie based on your book, and you're wondering, I didn't give this permission. How this happened? You took it. If you're a photographer, you took a picture. Somebody else had that in the gallery. Just in it's about it's focused a lot on control, and yeah.
Okay. So a lot of control. You essentially want to monetize your expressed idea.
Yes.
The exclusive right to that expressed idea.
Yeah. I mean, monetization is definitely a big part of it.
Yes.
But
it's not the only. It's not the
also,
main
if
thing.
I don't want to monetize my work, I have the right for it not to be monetized.
Okay.
I can say I don't want to share it.
Okay.
If I've written a play, but I don't want the public to see it.
Okay.
Just because you're a director and you think you're so passionate, you can't now just.
Okay.
But like you just said now about the expression.
Yes.
So with copyrights, it only applies when you have expressed the idea. So it has to be in a fixed, tangible form.
Okay.
You can't copyright an idea you've just had or just floating in your head. It has to be expressed and be tangible in a way that it can be viewed.
Okay.
So
okay, so that's good. Now, I imagine the arguments that are coming up now, because everyone claims, even creativity in and of itself has been a contentious issue amongst creatives. Well, and I say this because people always claim there's a fine line between inspiration and
outright copying. 100%.
And I know you can elaborate on this for Yonks. But this is the very basic, at the very basic level, the sort of issue we're having now, because it's almost as though computers are, in quote, getting inspired by the works of persons who don't even really know that their data has been used to train an artificial intelligence model.
Sure.
So that's one front.
Okay, so I have two views on this.
Okay.
View one, just as a bit of a backpedaling. So you mentioned that with copyright, it has to be expressed.
Yes.
There's also originality that I think we'll come back to, but that's also a key. Like you mentioned, creativity.
Yes.
So under copyrights, you don't get rewarded for creativity.
Okay.
You get rewarded for your originality. So your work has to be original. And various jurisdictions have different meanings of what makes a work original. I'll come back to that, but I just wanted to put that out there.
Okay.
Then in regards to the AI using your work without your knowledge aspect, the thing is, I think this is also part of the apprehension people have with AI. Because if, for example, I've written a book.
Okay.
And it's been sold, I don't know who it's been sold to. You could read that book and be inspired by it, but I can't control that it got to you, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So if AI is being inspired by your work that's in the public domain, it's a tricky situation, but I understand that, I didn't give permission for my work to be trained by AI. 100%.
Okay.
Understandable. But you did put your work into the public domain.
Yeah.
No, sorry. Into the public space to be used by the public.
Yes.
Under your control. But you can't stop if a human being is inspired by your work.
Yeah.
You can't control that. Because inspiration is different from copying, as you said.
Okay.
So with AI, I'm always so intrigued as to why it's so different. Why it's, I didn't consent to AI using my work to learn. The same way the person who wrote Lord of the Rings, what's his name? Tolkien,
yes.
I'm sure he didn't consent to J.K. Rowling using his work and all the other many fantasy authors, like
Hmm.
they put in like Game of Thrones.
Yes.
So I think it's a very
Fine line to tread.
line to tread, and it's very. I'm not really sure what the
Issues.
outcomes will be. No,
Yeah,
the issues
the outcome. Yeah, the issues are clear.
are
yeah.
clear, but if-
Outcomes.
So does that mean that going forward, if you make your work available to the public, you have to put a caveat saying no, cannot be used for AI, for generative AI, or do you say I consent to this being used? It's just a very
Possibly. Possibly because I there's something I know the EU has it, and I know it applies to natural persons, and it's the right to be forgotten. Now, our legislation on this side of the world hasn't, legislations haven't developed to that extent, where we recognize our rights digitally to some extent. However, thankfully we have the Data Protection Act. These are some certain steps in the right direction. And I know NITDA, which is the Nigeria Information Technology Development Agency, and I know they have an artificial intelligence research institute.
Okay.
It's not that we're sleeping on this, right? But the West, however, have already encountered these sorts of issues in their courts.
Yes.
I remember in the US, there was a case of someone, a lawyer actually, generated a fake citation.
Yes, exactly. And the judge called him out on it. And
And that was very funny. I would have been so embarrassed for him, honestly. I'm impressed that the judge caught him.
Again, it's like you said, you need. Like you said, you need human inputs.
Yeah.
Somebody had. It's all well and good to use AI, but it only knows so much to begin with. And you ask for something you didn't have. Said, okay, no problem. I'll generate it for you. But like you said about the courts in the West having issues with AI, there are actually two issues with copyright currently.
Okay.
And copyright and AI in the American courts.
Okay.
So like I said previously, originality is a requirement for copyright protection.
Okay.
And different countries have different tests. In Nigeria, under the new Copyright Act, some effort has been expended to give the work original character.
Okay.
In the EU, it's that the work in question is the author's own intellectual creation. So in the UK, it's that skill, labor, and judgment have been expended to make the work in question. But so this creates some confusion because what is original in country A may not be original in country B. But interestingly, so in America, there are two cases. One, there was somebody called Jason Matthew Allen.
Okay.
Who he used AI to create an image. And so he now sought to copyright his image because it's been created by me. And he was denied. And even though he explained that he had all these creative inputs, which included an impressive, in my humble opinion, 624 text prompts.
Wow.
Into the generative AI.
Wow.
I mean, that's a lot of work in my opinion. So yes, the board in question was, Mr. Allen had applied to the US Copyright Office and they made a review board to decide if this image could have copyright. And they ultimately held that no, you could not have copyright. It's interesting to compare the case of Mr. Allen to Stephen Thaler, who, unlike Mr. Allen, who was arguing that he should have copyright over the image in question. Mr. Thaler, and this he also tried to register at the US Copyright Office, but he argued that the machine, the AI system in question, should be the author of the work, and that because he owned the machine, it should then be transferred to him. And this case, it actually made its way to the courts. And the courts agreed with the US Copyright Office that he could not have copyrights over the image in question. To paraphrase the judge, human authorship was the bedrock of copyright protection. I think it's very interesting to consider this and just, I mean, these are very two distinctive issues, in that they're both AI related. So yes, can a machine own copyright? That's a whole different argument from the argument of Mr. Allen, who he's saying, but I have put in all this work and creativity. Like I said before, the 624 text prompts, and was still denied copyrights. So, I mean, trying to see how the American courts develop from this, if they will still stick to this going forward.
Okay.
But also how the other jurisdictions that have other tests for originality, how they will interpret AI work and the protection that can be given to them. Because under the new Copyright Act, the Nigerian test is some effort has been extended.
Right.
Can you argue that 624 text prompts is some effort?
It's very subjective, and I think that's where the problem lies, because the standard varies per jurisdiction, and importantly, it highlights another issue that one is likely to face, because within the EU, they are very much at the forefront of cutting edge of legislation in this area. And so they have the Artificial Intelligence Act, and within that act, they intend on managing certain stakeholders classified as providers and deployers of AI systems. And inclusive of those issues, they've also categorized the different extent to which the AI has been in violation of some form of fundamental right, health, safety of a natural person. Now, they highlighted certain issues or classifications as well. And these are some of which I would like to base our discussions on. So, we have some issues that we'll discuss very briefly. One would be transparency, another would be the avoidance of discrimination, and the third would be surveillance. Now, these are some of the issues or potential problem areas that the AI Act, EU AI Act, is trying to mitigate. Now, deepfakes are a consequence.
Oh my God.
Could potentially be very detrimental. Extremely detrimental. And just as a brief overview, deepfake, which is usually an audiovisual image.
Yes.
Those are the ones that have the most impact. I think we're used to photos being shot. Photoshop.
Not to the extent of deepfake.
Yeah, so audiovisual. And that's what the deepfake is. So for those of us who don't really know what this is an artificial intelligence system that enables the user to mimic or use the shell of an image, of someone else's image, to say whatever they want in that person's voice
and do whatever they
and
want
do
as
whatever
well.
they want as well. And as you can imagine, this would be very detrimental in the event of, say, imagine like there are wars going on.
Exactly.
There's a Russian-Ukraine war. There's a Hamas and Israel war going on at the moment. And imagine using a deep fake to perpetuate treason. Essentially, you pose as the head of state of one of these, and give such a very riling speech to rally your citizens, and it could be it could have very serious international implications,
and even
international diplomacy.
Also impact the way information is spread.
Yes.
Because already there's so many issues with fake news, as it were. Like, you can't verify the source. You just start spreading on social media. You now add a deep fake of a well-known news reporter, news agent, anchor, spreading made-up stories. And how do you tell the truth? How do you tell what is fiction? What can you use? But if you can't trust what you can see, then what can you trust?
And this is precisely true, because one of the ways they seek to mitigate this would be by ensuring that these providers and deployers of AI systems incorporate obvious signage on such content that this is a deep fake, or this was generated by
a deep fake.
A deep whatever platform it is, or it were at the time. And certainly that would help. Should this sort of technology get into the hands of bad actors, it could have wide and varied consequences that we cannot even begin to fathom right now. So that's transparency. Then the avoidance of discrimination. I think we were having a discussion earlier, and you said something about Black Mirror.
Yes.
For those of us who are not particularly aware, Black Mirror is a show on Netflix. I believe this was season 3.
It was the most recent season.
The most recent season 4.
6?
8.
The most recent season.
The most recent season. And it was one of the episodes where this actress, this lady was just living her life, but she would go on Netflix, or what was supposed to be Netflix within the show, the streaming service, and see her whole life play out before her exactly the way she had lived it out up until that very point.
What was also key was that the actress who was portraying her, so as you said, it was in real time.
Yes.
But they were using AI essentially to generate this content.
Yes.
So an actress had consented for her image and likeness and voice to be used in that situation. And the whole thing started unraveling. No one's going into too much, so in case anyone wants to watch it. And it just goes back, like you said, with deep fakes, there has to be a level, because it's so realistic, and there's nothing. It's very hard to tell.
Yeah, it's hard to tell. Before it was very obvious, everything was pixelated. You could tell this one's fake. But now it's startlingly problematic, because it's very problematic, because you can't tell what is real from what isn't, and those distinctions need to be made abundantly clear.
It's all well and good now when it's quote unquote harmless fun. So like there's the Netflix one. There's also on Twitter, it was at a point a picture that went around of, I think the caption was Tom Cruise's Mission Impossible.
Oh yeah, I think I saw that.
That was deepfake.
Yeah, I saw it.
And everyone was spreading like, oh wow, they did such a good job hiring these people. They look just like him. And then it came out and it was like, no, this was just AI generated.
Yeah.
And so yes, in that situation is harmless, but if, as you said earlier, in an international situation where it's actual news, life or death situation, it's no longer harmless and you don't have time to start verifying. So I think also you were saying earlier at some point, maybe you were speaking about people's comments on the acts.
Okay, yes. So some people had made comments, some stakeholders had aired their views, feeling that the EU was stifling innovation within the space and how the technology environment was going to be in a position of perpetually playing catch up to the rest of the world, given how stringent the fines were for having or making such blunders, within the space. Now, the commission retorted the response, saying that, look, we still have these sandboxes, and sandboxes are programs that are often run by governments to essentially provide the right environment, business and regulatory environment for unique set of businesses to grow and thrive, so they can scale and become profitable problem-solving entities. Now, so that's like the trade-off with the EU. But another thing about the EU is that the fines that are to be applied to these providers and deployers of AI systems are meant to cut across other jurisdictions. So there's no jurisdiction from which a provider or deployer emanates from or operates out of that would not be bound to its product being misused outside of the confines of what the AI Act has prescribed within the EU. So I don't think that is wrong, and I think that the EU has the benefit of being quite a symbiotic entity. There's a synergy there, and multiple jurisdictions. It can be a bit of a legal conundrum from time to time, but there's an understanding that has been built over time. So I also appreciate the advances in the space of surveillance. Now we know that artificial intelligence. We've seen movies like Eagle Eye, and that came out in 2009, Shia LaBeouf, and you had this AI system that was controlling weapon systems and surveillance in the United States, and was after him because he knew something that he wasn't supposed to know, and it was trying to get rid of him. And so, it sounds far-fetched, but we are inching ever closer and closer to these realities. Now, not to sound like what's the word? Speculative theorists, but we choose to believe and acknowledge that these are real issues that, though they may have thematic and exciting context within content that's generated about them, the issues are still real, and they need to be addressed as quickly as possible. Now, the EU has a specialized body that's responsible for regulation, monitoring the regulation of artificial intelligence within its, jurisdiction. And that's good. I think that's a step forward because we need. So what it then speaks to me is that what it says to me is that we need to upskill our expertise, both as legal professionals, well versed in intellectual property, such as yourself, and Another would be the civil service also being abreast with these developments and having the requisite know-how to, you know, to judiciously manage innovation and regulation.
Yes.
It's a balanced hand.
100%. It has to be a balance because AI is an amazing tool, but like all tools can turn into a weapon if it's not controlled properly. But I don't think that should now undermine all the good and all the potential that AI has. And the fact is, I think change is apprehensive. The unknowing, it does frighten a few people. And like you said, I think at the beginning of this conversation, there's been some fears of, oh, will I lose my job to AI? And I think the unfortunate truth is that some jobs may suffer.
Yes.
I don't think all of them. I don't think like lawyer. Some things. Well, that is what changes. I mean, in England, in ages ago, they had people who went around and waking people up on their doors and on their windows. I think they were called knock. I don't remember what they were called, but they used to go around and that was their job. They'd walk around the town waking various people up. Obviously, with the advent of clocks and alarm clocks, those people lost their jobs.
Mm-hmm.
But industry and technology has created so many more jobs. And I think that's what it will be with AI as well.
Mm-hmm.
Some jobs may suffer. Hopefully, it's not. Everyone hopes that it's not theirs. But many more jobs will open up.
Mm.
In really, like if you look at it from the law offering angle, certain areas of law may become, if you specialize in one area, it may become a bit redundant. But now there's a whole brand new field of law that is waiting to be explored.
Hope you enjoyed the conversation. For more inquiries and to catch up with our latest updates, follow us on our socials and visit our website alp.company and alptrade.africa. See you next time. Bye.